Hello my friends, recently I was playing chess and thought to myself, what if this game was African themed instead of European themed? So that's what I'll be showing you today, an Africanized version of chess. And yes, I know Africa has its own board games and I plan to talk about those in the future. Now, for some of you, changing the cultural context of chess might seem odd, but it's not as unusual as you may think, because chess actually originated in Asia. According to Brown University, the game passed from Indian chaturanga to Persian shatranj to Spanish ajedrez and finally English chess. In my initial research into the history of chess, I attempted to see if Africa was involved, but my search came up with nothing until much later. It was only when I was late into the production of this video that I discovered evidence, like these old images of black Moors playing shatranj. So it seems that the people of Africa did play a role in the history and spreading of the game that became chess, but rather than further delay this video that had already been delayed due to a health issue, I decided that if I want to dig deeper into the research on shatranj, I'll save that for a potential video sometime in the future. So, for this African version of chess that I made up, I specifically chose to base it on the Yoruba culture, and not only did I change the look of the pieces, but I went ahead and made some new rules as well. Oh, and real quick, I just want you all to know that yes, I am aware of the film Queen of Katwe. It's a great film, and I know it takes place in Uganda, but that doesn't mean I have to feel obligated to make a Ugandan version of chess. It's not like Uganda is the only place in Africa where people play chess. Anyway, I had a cool idea for a Yoruba version of chess, so that's what I went with. First, let's begin with the new Rook, since he's the big game changer here. The Rook has been replaced with Ogun, the Yoruba god, aka Orisha, of iron and war. The design for this piece was inspired by a blacksmith's staff known as Opa Ogun. In our new version of chess, this Orisha holds various weapons that can be equipped by other chess pieces. Once equipped with Ogun's iron weapons, new abilities become unlocked. Ogun can equip any unit that is one space adjacent to him, including diagonally, and equipping a unit takes one turn. As for his movements, Ogun himself moves just like a typical rook. The pawn of this game is based on an Egungun masquerader, and since I already have an important upcoming video that will give details about the Egungun, I won't be saying much about it today. Now, due to the chess game being connected to warfare, I know to some extent it would have made more sense to use a Yoruba warrior for the pawn, but I like masks, so I went with an Egungun, simple as that. And it's worth noting I've seen some Egungun carrying blades during their performances. Now this piece will move just like a normal chess pawn, but when you equip an Egungun piece with a knife, its attack range is doubled so that you can attack two spaces diagonally instead of just one. Yes, it's a pretty straightforward upgrade, but things will get even more interesting for the other pieces. It's also worth noting that I considered having an equipped Egungun be able to attack a unit from the front, and I also considered having it be able to attack diagonally backward. For all the gameplay changes I'm about to mention, it's worth noting that whether these ideas are good or not, or need adjusting, can only really be determined through rigorous playtesting. Our next piece is the god Eshu, who replaces the knight. The knight has arguably the weirdest movements in chess, and I felt like that was a good fit for the trickster god Eshu. So Eshu moves in the same L-shaped way as the knight, but if you equip Eshu with a spear, then the trickster can create a spike trap on the board. Eshu can place this spear trap on any space that is diagonally adjacent to him. The spear trap can take out any unit, with one exception that we will get into later. Once the spike trap is set, it cannot be moved, but it will be taken off the board once it traps an opponent's piece. Up next is Shango, the thunder god. He replaces the bishop. A bishop in chess can move diagonally in any direction and any distance, but Shango, because he's the thunder god, I want him to zigzag in his movements. So he can move diagonally in any direction, but his distance is limited to 3 squares, which does seem like a nerf. However, he can immediately move again in the same turn in a different diagonal direction. So although his distance is less than the bishop, his maneuverability is enhanced. Plus, once he's equipped with his axe, he can move a third time in the same turn, allowing Shango to move in a thunderbolt motion. Moving on to the most powerful chess piece, the queen. She is now Olokun, the Orisha of water. Now, just in case someone is worried that I removed the only female character from chess, I'll point out that Olokun has been depicted as both man and woman, so feel free to think of Olokun as whatever gender you want. This powerful god would have the same movements as the queen piece and more, because Olokun can equip any weapon. With the knife they can use Aqua Slash, which lets the queen take down an adjacent piece without even moving, though just to clarify, this does still take up a turn. If you equip them with a spear, they can do the ability Water Spout Vault, which lets them vault over a spike trap. When equipped with an axe, they get the ability Stormy Seas, which allows the player to swap Olokun's position with one of the 2 Shango pieces. And lastly, if you equip Olokun with any of the 2 weapons, they can execute a super move called Tidal Wave. The Tidal Wave pushes back all the opponent's pieces by 1 space, and if any of the opponent's pieces put your king in check or checkmate after the Tidal Wave is used, that piece or pieces are drowned and captured. I know it may sound overpowered, but keep in mind that it takes 3 turns to use, and both players are able to use it, so it is a balanced mechanic. But again, this is something that would need playtesting to see if it actually is suitable for the game. Either way, I just like the idea of having a super move in a board game. Finally, let's talk about the king, who I originally planned to be depicted as Olorun, the king of all Orisha, but then I decided that it didn't make any sense to be able to checkmate Olorun. So instead, the king is simply represented by the Yoruba king. I think this choice makes a lot more sense considering the queen in chess is always way more powerful, and now that the king is just a human king, it's a good justification for that. And as you can see, the icon I made to represent the Yoruba king is based on the Yoruba crown. And although he isn't as powerful as Olokun, he does have one trick up his sleeve: a shotgun! Just kidding. Anyway, the king moves just as you would expect him to, including having the castling technique, but there are actually some tricks that he does in fact have. For one, if the king is not in check, he can dismantle a spike trap that is 1 space adjacent to him. Also, if both of your Oguns are captured, the weapons of one of those Oguns transfers over to the king, so that the king can equip the remaining troops. Speaking of weapons, in case it wasn't clear, weapons are used once by an equipped character. Afterwards, said weapon is returned to Ogun, who can re-equip the weapon on either the same character or a different character. If I forget to mention a rule, or if there's some other thing that you are unclear about in these instructions, you can talk to me about it in the comments of the video. Now I want to point out that even though my designs were made to be computer chess sprites, I want to say that this could definitely still work as a physical chess set in the real world. The weapons can easily be held by the wooden chess pieces themselves by inserting them into holes made into the wood, which is a technique that was employed in historical African sculptures, as you can see in this image right here. For the spike trap, you would just lay the spear down flat on a square, though you could carve a special base to stick the spear into to make it stand up. However, if someone accidentally steps on that, it'll hurt a lot more than stepping on a Lego. Well, in that case, maybe the spear could just be simply represented with a long piece of grass or something like that, and that way no parents would get a spike in their foot. And of course, with modern manufacturing, the weapons could probably be made with some kind of soft material like rubber. Having said all that, the idea of making toys safe is kind of a modern idea. When toys and playthings were made back in the olden days, no one really cared about safety. I'm not saying that to advocate for dangerous toys. I'm saying that if this kind of chessboard was made in olden times, they would not think twice about, making things less hard and sharp. You know what I mean? Oh, by the way, at some point in the future, I might try to upload these graphics for these chess pieces somewhere else on the internet, in case somebody wants to download and play around with them. And one more addendum I have for this video is that I found out you can actually play the ancient game of chaturanga on chess.com, though unfortunately they force you to sign in to play the variants, but oh well, just a little annoyance you have to go through. Anyway, as for shatranj, I tried to find that online as well, but wasn't able to. Fortunately, a friend of mine recently gave me an iPhone, and I was able to find a version of shatranj on there. The last thing I want to expound upon before we go is the storyline that justifies why these pieces are what they are. In this version of chess, two Yoruba princes are fighting over who has the right to rule as king, and to help decide the future of the Yoruba kingdom, they have called upon both the ancestors and the Orisha to help decide who would be the better king. Alrighty, I hope you like my idea for a Yoruba-themed chess. Let me hear your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching.